Welcome back, everybody. This is not a book video. This is something of a personal update for today. Don't worry if you don't want to watch this. It's fine. There will be more Wheel of Time content. I'll record one later today that will be up tomorrow. Don't worry about that. Today's Wheel of Time video is already up, so no worries there. This is sort of about me and where my life is and a bit about mental health in general and stuff. So if that kind of stuff triggers you, do something else. Watch me get angry or watch someone else get angry or funny or whatever. Do whatever helps. Don't watch this. This is me talking about why I feel like shit or parts of that. So we'll do this. Yeah, if you're still watching this, thank you. I highly appreciate it. So let's talk a bit about the cost of mental health, shall we? Cheers. All right. So what do I mean by the cost of mental health? So I'll do a bit of like the personal stuff, and then I'll try to make it a bit more of a general thing at the end of the day, right? So I've been feeling pretty crappy for the last 2 months, bit over 2 months, I would say, roughly after Christmas and New Year's is sort of when it kind of really hit me. That's something that happens more or less every year because, I don't know, mostly I guess because once you have those like holidays, winter holidays, sort of like the more immediate pressure of things kind of drops off, and that's sort of when your mind, my mind and body kind of realize that they've been working overtime all the time, and that, well, I'm speculating here. It's just something that has happened before, that like in January I kind of fuck up a lot. Well, that's not exactly what I want to look at here. Like, I mean, that's part of it. It's like the that thing that I tend to overwork myself and then kind of burn out hard and then do the same thing all over again. I think, yeah, it's part of me, and I know that ideally I'll just in future just announce that I'll take a holiday for like 2 weeks or whatever, and just really don't look at anything, and that's sort of what I should do there. I'm aware of it. We'll see how that works. That's not exactly what I want to look at today, though. What I want to look at today, though, is an ongoing problem. It's like, I've spoken about it before. It's like I do, suffer from ADHD. That was diagnosed a long time ago. Unfortunately, the meds that I tried out didn't actually work, so I'm trying to cope in all kinds of ways. Also, not a big deal. I mean, well, it's a big deal, but you know what I mean. The other part is that I tend to, this is more or less me self-diagnosing, right? So this is not an official claim that I do or whatever. I do definitely have these phases that I would call more like a depressed phase. I don't want to call it like full-on depression, but I don't have any diagnosis from any doctor for this. But it's sort of something that happens. And I think it's a combination of the ADHD, and maybe part of it is like the depression, the more depressed parts of it, and there's some anxiety issues in there that are probably connected to the actual disability. I've spoken about that before as well, right? It's like that I have problems asking for help in general. And all of these things unfortunately combine in a lot of ways, where I let things that I should do lie. Now that's, first of all, that's typical ADHD. It's not a big deal. I'm like, I have to do this. I really don't want to do this right now. There's this other shiny thing. I'll do the other shiny thing, and then I actually forget about the things that I need to do. And then there's sometimes situations where I'm like, I have to do this thing. It's an uncomfortable thing. It's like paying bills, for example, or answering some form of paperwork that I haven't answered yet. Stuff like that. And yeah, that also is, sort of connected to, I guess, both the ADHD and the not asking for help, because, it's paperwork. It's written paperwork, because, Germany is still sort of in the Stone Age. We don't like technology. And I can't do paperwork. I mean, I can. I need to, scan in the document, have OCR run over it, let my computer read it out to me, then I know what it's all about. Then I can possibly, depending on what it is, I can write a letter, print it out, mail it out. I can do that with minimal help. Sometimes it's a form that needs filling out. In that case, I need to ask someone else to do that for me. I can't help that. It's just something that I can physically not doing any other way. Now, if all these things would be online, that would certainly help, right? But it is what it is. As long as I have to fill out physical forms, I have to ask people to help me with those. And I'm bad at that. Like, don't get me wrong. The first thing there that is important is I know I have friends who are more than willing to do these things. And there's no shame in asking in general, but then there is, right? And that's sort of why I let those things slide and leave. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it right now, and the pile grows and stuff. And I'm sure that's something that a lot, and that's sort of when I say I want to put this also into the more like general side of things, right? I'm sure that I'm not alone in that regard. That like with the kind of mental health aspects that I have, there's other people out there that also let like bills lie or leave paperwork that they don't want to deal with right now and leave that stuff lie. And that leads to all kinds of ongoing problems, right? It leads to a lot of pressure and shit. And that's sort of what I'm definitely struggling with a lot, the pressure and shame of that. And that's sort of where I want to go into a bit more today. So what do I mean by that? Basically, let's go through an example here. And I've spoken about that before. It's kind of part of the reason that I have to, deal with today. It's like part of the reason. It's like, I obviously need to do taxes. Taxes are a mess. No one likes to do taxes. I, at the time, felt I could not afford a tax account because, they cost money and I don't have money. But I need to do the taxes. So I left that stuff for too long until at some point the tax office obviously, actually impounded my bank account, and they wanted to, have like extra money because there's like penalties if you don't hand in that stuff on time. And I paid those penalties, and then I kind of pushed that stuff away again. And it's an ongoing circle where I realized at this point, I desperately need someone else to take care of that, because I've reached the point where paying for a tax accountant would probably be cheaper than having to pay those penalties. It's one small thing that is definitely there. And yes, my bank account has been impounded again. I need to find out why. I just found out it's not fully empty, but bills can't be paid, so it's frozen. I need to call the bank. I need to talk to them. I need to ask them what's going on. Then I need to find out what I did not pay or whatever, whoever like froze the thing, and then I need to pay that bit. And I need to hope that it's below the amount of money that I still have on there to get my bank account out of like bank jail, and then see where things are going from there. And as you can imagine, and this is like part of the whole thing that I'm trying to solve or figure out for myself. And I think it's important to understand, because there's a lot of stigma around that. And I feel it's something we should respect or understand in other people, I hope. Not personally me, but in general, right? Is calling the bank and asking about the fact that your bank account is frozen. Again, with the suspicion that it is because you, like in this case me, I fucked up and didn't pay something or whatever in the past, feels shameful, because then the person in the bank knows that I'm apparently a loser who can't pay their bills or whatever, and that's fucking tough. Add to that I in general really hate talking to people on the phone. Just like, I think I said, one of those weird social anxieties I've always had is like, I hate talking to people, especially when it's about bureaucracy. I hate talking to these kind of people on the phone. So that's, yeah, I should have called the bank on Monday. Now it's Wednesday, so I'm already, stalling again. I'm gonna do it today, but it takes time. So that's just one of those aspects, and that what I wanted to point out here is that when I say the cost of mental health, there is an additional cost that is important to talk about. We talk about acceptance of all kinds of mental health struggles. We talk about how expensive it is to get care from like health insurance and stuff like that. And all of that is true. But there is that like creeping cost in the background that is so easy to overlook. That means that if you don't do things on time because you can't, because of your mental health, or you try to avoid specific ways of doing things because of your mental health struggles, it means that you pay more. That just like your basic living costs go up because of your mental health, and in ways that are easily avoidable for people that don't struggle with these specific aspects of mental health. And that's something I feel is like not talked about enough, or I feel it's something that I've come to realize over the last year. It's definitely something that is hitting me hard. Like, I look at this, I could probably save around €1,000 per year if I would only get my shit together and deal with these things on time and avoid these ways of, dumb things like, I don't know, booking train tickets. They go up in price the closer it gets to the date. And so, yeah, if I would actually, do it on time when I decide to go somewhere, I would save money. Same for plane tickets. Not something that happened a lot last year, but in general, it's there. Same thing now with these kind of things. Like, had I paid my taxes immediately and dealt with it immediately, or made the decision to hand it off to a tax accountant, which once again would have meant like calling someone, talking to people, and so forth, which is always connected with shame, because I know my finances are a mess. I know my life is a mess. It's like every time I ask someone for help, it means I need to admit to them that I am not as in control of everything as I wish I was, or as I seem to be. And that's connected with a lot of like weird shame on my part, because I rationally, I know I have friends who are more than willing to help me out with these kind of things. I know that. But it's so fucking difficult to get that through my own mind, through my own head. And yeah, it's just something that I just should be able to work out, but I am not. And I'm still struggling with it. It's like, yeah, but right now I don't have a choice. If I don't solve the thing with my bank account right now, I do have some cash left, so I will not starve to death in the next day or two. But I need to solve this right now, because there's like all these knock-on effects, like, standard payments that go out regularly. If I don't solve this week, my rent won't go out. That's something I don't want to have happen. So I need to solve this immediately. So yeah, that's part of what I mean when I talk about the cost of mental health, that I just like have these additional costs that could be avoided by me just getting shit done and asking for help when I need it, and being more, not open about it, but more, I think, not open to others, but more open about it to myself, in a way. And that's just part of it. The other part of it, however, is the instability. What do I mean by that? And the instability is like, I'm good at holding it together most of the time, like in my life. I'm scraping past, and I'm good. I'm good with that. Could I live a more relaxed life? Hell, of course I could. But I'm mostly okay with how I do, and it's fine. But it's a very, very, very fragile thing. It is something, just not even major, but something happens. It's so easy to knock that whole thing out. I'll have like 2 examples of that, and then I guess I'll wrap it up for today. Those 2 are like, as I said, like, I fucked up over the last couple of months. And I like 2 months, like around New Year's, and I didn't talk to people. And there's stuff that happened at the time, when I'm behind stuff. And I spoke to people, and I usually get the advice of people like, you know what? Take your time. Your mental health is more important than your record label and all these other things. And I'm like, you're probably right. I agree with that, but I don't have the opportunity. If I take a month off to concentrate on my mental health and do nothing with the label and no YouTube or whatever, I don't have any money. So, and I could probably, there's always ways around that. I could solve that part. If I don't do anything this month, I have no income. I could solve that in all kinds of ways. But it's once again, that's a decision that is taking a lot of like things, of personal admissions of that I can't handle all kinds of things. It's to say like, take time off to yourself. Taking time off for yourself or for myself is a luxury I can't afford right now. whether I want to or not. It's like, I can't afford that financially. Are there things, that I could do to be able to afford that? Yeah, I could probably, deal with a shit ton of bureaucracy to get some support from the state or whatever. I could do that if I really wanted to. But the cost of, like, the energy, the mental health cost of going through all of that, plus the admissions that apparently I need, support from the states, are so fucking high that, like, scraping by just is the easier option right now. And I would be lying. It's not that bad. It's just like, I'm on the up again right now, and I'm good with that. But it is so fragile that the idea of, like, taking time off isn't there. And once again, I'm not alone in that situation. I am still a very privileged person. I know that, and I can, because there are all these options. But there's a lot of people out there in all kinds of situations, some because of mental health struggles, some just because our economy is fucked in general, that, can't afford doing that. And that's like the dangerous part behind this, that's what I mean when I say, like, fragility of, life in that regard. And as I say, like, mental health struggles do make it more likely that you're facing that kind of fragility. The other one is, just plain bad luck. Sometimes, and the last 2 years were big with bad luck, right? So here's an example. I run this record label, right? I spoke about, like, the financial aspects, right? I do vinyl pressings that they are a big mess right now in general. They take longer and longer because of all kinds of reasons. And I have to pay them in advance. They're not cheap. There is somewhere, like last year when the ones that I talk about right now, it was about like 1,800 to 1,900 euros for 300 records that I need to pay in advance. Prices have risen. Right now it's more like 2,100, like 2,000. We're at like €7 per a single vinyl if I do like a cup, like 300 pieces. However, so here's the problem. I did that last year for a bunch of records. And then I put them on pre-order so I can, get some of that money back. And then I stayed in contact with the manufacturer. And then at some point I stopped, and there were obviously delays and stuff. And I'm like, well, happens. And then once the whole, like, mess hit in December and January, I obviously did not control and check in with them like every week or whatever. I mean, they had delivered like an older pressing in October. When I made the video about, like, the vinyl and stuff, that same manufacturer delivered a lot of records to me, and that was fine. So I'm like, yeah, well, it'll show up. And that now that I kind of was digging myself out of that pile of messages and stuff that piled up when I was, not reading through my stuff in January, I got back to them and asked about what's going on with those records, because, that's a lot of money for me. Turns out they're not answering any emails anymore. They're not answering the phone anymore. They're just gone. So what do I do now? It's like, I have customers waiting for this. I have bands waiting for it. I can, of course, go all kinds of ways trying to get, like, my money back from them and so forth. They're in a different country, which makes it, like, extremely difficult for me to do all of these things, like, mentally, organizationally, and at the same time I still don't have the records. So what I can do is, of course, hire a different manufacturer for the same project and pay again, because at the end of the day I need to deliver these vinyls or pay people the money back. And I want those vinyls. I believe in those vinyls. They are absolutely important for the future of those bands, not only for the label. They're just, like, important to have out there. Yeah, and that's what I'm facing right now. And that's the kind of, like bad luck where I'm like, this is very much hitting my stability as well. Because, yeah, while I can scrape by in general, having to suddenly double pay for vinyl pressings is something that I can not easily do. And I can't go to my bank and ask them for a loan. I mean, I can, but they won't give me one. Because they know my finances. They see that my bank account has been, impounded like twice last year because of, me not paying bills, even though I could have paid them financially and stuff like that. That's not going to help me when it comes to getting a loan. So how am I going to swing this shit? Like just going, sitting down eating like toast and nothing for the next week, the next half year, probably. Something like that. I mean, not exactly, but that's sort of the thing that I'm facing right now, and it's the kind of thing that makes me just like sit there and do nothing, because in those situations I just freeze up and do all kinds of other stuff to distract myself from actually solving the problem, which is what I said earlier. It all ends up being this weird circle. And yes, getting time off to just reset and start all over is something that would definitely help, because I do have like in general, a stable business model or whatever with the record label for the kind of life that I tend to want, or that I want to live. But I don't have the luxury of getting that like month of restart, sorting everything out, getting all that shit done. No, it's an ongoing thing. I can't just step out of it. I can't do that financially and mentally at this point, even though I should mentally, not financially. I just can't afford it. So that's sort of where I'm struggling with. And once again, I have no idea how to solve this. I mean, I'll just muddle along and hope that like one problem after the other will slowly go away and things will get better now that the plague is over and there's, shows again. I can hopefully travel to those and sell records there and make some money and, get things back in line. But it's tough. Anyway, that's sort of what I wanted to talk about here today, is like, if you've seen me a bit more stressed recently, well, I mean, I'm pissed at Wheel of Time because Wheel of Time is shit, but it's probably also that I'm under a lot of pressure mentally over the last 2 months. And I wanted to point out those like hidden costs of like struggling with mental health that are just like, how just everyday living gets more expensive when you are mentally not able to pay, mentally, not financially, mentally not able to pay a bill on time, or deal with a specific aspect of bureaucracy, and then you have to pay penalties and stuff. That shit adds up. And unfortunately, that shit adding up adds to the pressure that then impacts mental health. And I have no solution for this. I just felt that it's important to also look at that and not just at the emotional aspect and just at the actual healthcare costs, which are obviously a huge problem. But I feel the other part is important to talk about as well. So anyway, thanks for listening to me rant. I really had to get this stuff off my chest. Yeah, I'll see you for the next one when I'm talking about, books again and how bad Wheel of Time is and other stuff like that. And yeah, have a great day. Cheers.